Hi, it's Mayor Walter Sendzik, and welcome back to Our Home with Mayor Sendzik. We have an exciting show today. We're going to be talking about one of the most renowned theater companies that we have here in St. Catharines, and we're also going to be talking about a business in our community that's celebrating a milestone, but is also on the cutting edge of where technology is going. So it's a great show spotlighting two different parts of our community, and that's what makes this show so special. As well, I just want you to remember that Remembrance Day is coming up on November 11th, and come out to the celebration, the memorial service that we'll be having at the Cenotaph as well. There will be something in Port Dalhousie on that weekend, and there'll also be something at the Meriton Cenotaph. So if you get an opportunity to come out and be a part of our community remembrance. I will be there sharing some of my experiences as I come back from a opportunity to attend a ceremony in Holland. So I'll be there to share that story as well. So today we have Monica Default, who is joining us from what is Carousel Players, General Manager of Carousel Players. And joining Monica is also Katie Leathers, who's involved with Carousel Players. Both of you are here representing an organization that's been in our community for 47 years. Mm-hmm. And Monica, you've been involved in the arts community in Niagara for more than 20 years. You've been with the Essential Collective Theatre since 2014 as the artistic director. You've been involved in Brock University. You've really immersed yourself in the creative arts in our community. And Katie, you've been the general manager of Carousel Players since 2017, but you found your way here through Shaw Festival, and graduate of Bishop's University, an MBA from McMaster University, which is fantastic, and also you studied at the Banff Centre for the Arts. Banff Centre for the Arts is an amazing, well-known arts centre here in Canada, and so you've come here via Shaw Festival, and you've both have really embraced what is Carousel Players for 47 years of our community. So a lot of people, and I know Carousel Players from when I was growing up, mm-hmm. and so I'm 47, so I've pretty much grown up with Carousel Players. And I remember having them come into our schools mm-hmm. and do their performances and just being in awe of how they transform their characters into these stories. And I still have vivid memories of Carousel Players. And so tell us, Monica, a bit about the 47 years. Tell us a bit about Carousel Players and its history in our community.
Well, as you said, it's been around for 47 years. This is our 48th season producing professional theater, especially for young audiences. And I think that's the thing to really remember is that these are all professional actors, designers, directors who are making work especially for children and bringing it to them in their schools or community settings. I do have a long history with Carousel Players, even though I've only been with the company as artistic director for 2 years. I've worked as an actor in several productions, as a playwright, really? As a dramaturg, that's someone who helps to develop new plays, and even as a tour manager for a little while. So I've been associated with the company for almost 20 years. And it's a great joy for me now to be stepping into the role of artistic director for these last 2 seasons. As far as the history of the company has been working primarily in the Niagara region, but also touring beyond that region. Right. And I think really well known for our productions that come to schools, engage children directly in culture and in dramatic arts, as well as arts education. And maybe, Kate, you want to just talk about the arts education part?
The company was founded on a mixture of going into the school with a production. This happened back in '72. A professor from Brock and some of his colleagues and students started taking shows out to schools, and they would do the performance, but the performance was part of a larger day of engaging with the power of theater. And so they would go in early, do some drama workshops with the students. Then the kids were involved in the play. They just had a strong connection with it. And then they would do more dramatic workshops afterwards. And we still have that tradition of arts education. Like we do camps and we do theater schools, after school, in classroom workshops. There's a lot going on, but it's all tied back to that experience that creativity gives children. Right. Being able to tell your story in a new way just expands, when you're a child, it just expands your ability to relate to the world.
And what I love about your connection there, Katie, is the connection to Brock. Because Brock was founded in 1968, 1964. It's in the 60s. And as an outcrop of that came Carousel Players.
Yeah.
And it shows the importance of having something like a university or college in your community, and how reaching into the community through programming creates something that has really, for me, like I said, it was a foundational thing for me to experience Carousel Players with a North End boy growing up in North End St. Catharines, attended Prince Philip School, and seeing Carousel Players come in and opening up your mind to really what dramatic arts could be about and how it connects to children. And so I guess talk a bit more about how the themes are chosen for children. Like, it is something different if you were to develop a play for an adult audience versus a children's audience. Where does the inspirations come from?
That's a great question. I think for me as artistic director, when I'm programming a season of work, I'm thinking about what's the theme for this season. So last season was really about how children make friends.
Right.
How do we make friends in the world? And this season it's more about community and how do we contribute to community, how do we belong to community. So when I'm looking at plays, we get submissions from professional playwrights. I sort of read through and I think about, okay, how can I program a season based on the submissions that I have that will connect with our young people who are seeing the shows, but also with parents and educators. So there are lots of factors that we consider. We have an educational advisory committee that advises us on how the curriculum relates to a piece, and they also help us to choose these plays, so it's not just me.
You've touched on, correct me, but you've touched on bullying.
Yep.
You've had a play that was around autism.
Yes.
So you've had a play that really looked at, I would say, diversity or culture,
Yep.
getting to the root of an individual's culture and what it means to that individual. So, and really, when you think about today and what you're reading about in the news and stuff about kids and the impact of society on kids, you've really been I'll say the front runner on taking that lens of looking at children and go, what are they going through? Whether it be sexual identity or looking at bullying or self-body imaging. Okay, you've touched on a lot of those things as Carousel Players.
Yeah, I think that's part of the history and legacy of the company is to respond to what children are going through today. So for this season, I was very inspired by the work of Greta Thunberg, her advocacy for climate change.
Greta Thunberg, okay, so she's the young Swedish climate activist. Just in case there's some folks at home that don't know, a young climate activist who has really turned the attention of the world onto climate issues.
Yeah, so our first show coming up, the protagonist is a young boy who sees an opportunity to become active in his own community. He lobbies the mayor in his town to look at saving this piece of green belt, this forested area, and to turn everyone's attention to what the potential of the environment and nature is in a child's life, right?
Wow.
So I think in choosing the themes of the plays, I'm inspired by what's going on in the world, and I try to reflect that for the children and educators and parents.
So what's the name of the production?
Water Wonder.
Water Wonder.
Said it at
So
the
it's
same
Water Wonder. And how many shows in a season? Is this the only show in the season, or?
No, we have, how many shows do we have?
We have 4 this season. The first one, which is in October, is a piece called Cranked, which was for teens. Then Water Wonder is coming up in November. And then our Incredible Adventures of Mary Jane Mosquito, which we actually produced last year.
Mary Jane Mosquito?
Mary Jane Mosquito. It's about a little tiny mosquito.
I was going to say, is it about a mosquito?
It is, and she doesn't
Not the most popular of insects.
No, but she sings so beautifully that we love her. So that show we produced last spring, and it's been, it got such great interest that we're actually touring it across the country this year.
Right.
So,
and that's been a lot of the success of Carousel Players, is that you have toured the country with some of your productions.
Yeah, we have a history of touring to children's festivals and other theater companies across the country. For The Incredible Adventures of Mary Jane Mosquito, it's an Indigenous playwright, an Indigenous story. The character teaches Cree in the play.
Wow.
And so it's an opportunity, and it's a beautiful musical production as well. Thompson Highway is a well-known Indigenous playwright, but he's also a fabulous composer and lyricist. So this play has music, as well as this opportunity for the character Mary Jane to share Cree language with the audiences. And it's for young kids, ages 4 to 8. So it'll be playing in Vancouver, and at 2 theaters in Vancouver, in Saskatoon. Then it's coming back in the spring, and it's touring all over Northern Ontario, as well as Richmond Hill and some other large performing arts centres in the Greater Toronto area.
So Carousel Players, not only putting Carousel Players on the map, but putting St. Catharines on the map.
Oh, we hope so, yeah.
Our history. So if you're interested in checking out a show, how can the public participate?
Well, we have all of our show information on our website, also on social media. You can purchase tickets through the website or send us an inquiry. If a parent wanted to ask about bringing the show to their child's school, for instance, there's a form that they can fill in and say, this is our school and we're interested. But at carouselplayers.com, you can learn all about all of our productions.
Do you have them at the First Ontario Performing Arts Centre?
We are having our spring production is going to the First Ontario. It's going to be, I believe it's April 14th. Okay. So we'll be doing 2 shows on a Saturday in April.
Very popular. I've been to the previous shows and it fills up, which is fantastic.
It does, yeah. And those ones we link to them from our website, but you can also go straight to the First Ontario Performing Arts Centre website and arrange tickets there.
And you also have a couple camps for young emerging actors.
That's right, we do, yeah.
And they take place in...
Well, we have a whole summer theater school, which runs July and August. This year we did 7 camps, I think. We're also doing a March break camp, and we're starting some PD Day activities in collaboration with the Niagara Symphony Orchestra.
Wow.
Yeah. And what else do we have?
Well, we've got a couple of, we're going to be doing after-school program.
Yes.
This is something we started last year, but it's drama classes in schools, but after school. So students don't have to travel to St. Catharines. It happens at their school. Wow. So we're just arranging right now which schools those will take place at, and then parents from nearby schools can all converge on one place and have drama classes. So that's something that will start in January.
That's amazing. I want to thank you for coming on the show and for what you're doing for the creative minds in our community. I think really Carousel Players is a defining institution that really has become a part of who we are in our community. So I want to thank you for your efforts. And for those of you at home, check out Carousel Players online, see when their shows are coming to either the schools or to the First Ontario Performing Arts Centre. You won't be disappointed. If your grandparents, bring your kids. If your parents, bring your kids. And if you just want to come out and enjoy something from a different perspective, I think Carousel Players is a way to open up your mind. So with that, right after the break, we're going to be having a local business come on, and we're going to talk about some of the success that they're seeing in the robotics sector, which is an emerging part of our economy. So you don't want to miss that. Hi, and welcome back to Our Home with Mayor Sendzik. Now, you heard all about the Carousel Players, 47 years in our community, and I don't know if you've heard of this company yet, but there's a company that's been in our community for the past 10 years that has been focused on robotics. And if you had the opportunity to see the Business Link magazine, you would have seen on the cover the actual owner, president of SDS Robotics. Dave Burgess is joining us today as well. He is joined by Daniella Cortez, who is also working with FSD in our community. Now, Dave, you've been in mechanical engineering. You went to Western, Big Bad Western, great university for engineering. You've been 20 years in what would be automation and robotics.
Yes.
And the last 10 years you've been here as president.
Yes.
And then I'm going to go over to Daniella, newer to what would be FSD, but you've also come out of the Niagara College program. You worked at the Walker Advanced Manufacturing Innovation Center, which is an amazing center in our community. You were working around the productivity side of assessments of medium to small size businesses. You're also active in OACETT, which is one of the longer acronyms I've heard of, and assisting the chapter with various women in technology initiatives. So it's interesting because often we think of robotics and engineering. We do think of men working in that space. And Dave, you've brought onto your team someone who clearly has a lot of experience, global applications and technical sales support at FDS. That is your role, FSD, sorry.
FSD.
Yeah, I do that. And you'll notice that, Dave,
That's
you
fine.
can kick me, you can do whatever I want. Sometimes I mix up, but FSD. And you're a graduate, Daniella, from the Mechanical Engineering Technician and Business and Sales program at Niagara College. So
That's correct.
great to see the connection that you're making, Dave.
Yeah.
And I want to touch on first your growth of your business. So
Sure.
tell people watching at home, what
Right.
is FSD?
Well, what's interesting is that we started off really online primarily in the early stages. And then as we grew, we tried to develop a global base and then started bringing that back in-house. Over the last 5 years, we've started to focus in more on the domestic sort of stage and taking on larger tier ones and bigger corporations, Fortune 500 companies. And that's where we really started to want to focus on what was happening in our own backyard. But because of our roots, what was interesting is we developed these partnerships out in the world, all over through Europe, through Asia. And that's really what set us apart now, is that we've got these very tight connections, distribution, supply chains, and a larger customer base. So that allowed us to really focus on developing large growth domestically and set us up with better equipment, better testing, and drew in a bigger crowd. And that's where we're at now. So we're doubling our growth pretty much every year now in terms of sales revenue. And it's been great. I mean, and there's no slowing down right now. I mean,
Right.
the robotics and automation industry, everyone sees it out there. It's in the news all the time. People know, a lot of parents know that this is the next big thing. And so people are constantly coming to us, yeah.
Well, it's interesting because the growth of robotics at high school, so
Yes,
Governor Simcoe, DM,
yes.
Sir Winston, and you're involved in...
Yes, we've been involved with the FIRST Robotics program. We have kids come through our facility. We've gotten heavily involved in the co-op programs, both here in the Niagara region at both of the colleges and Brock University. So we're constantly bringing on engineering students, working with even the high schools. More recently, last year, we donated a robotics lab to a public school, so set them up with a full robotic Lego lab for 10 stations. So we're trying to constantly even move it down, even earlier than high school, because we're starting to see the kids now, they're picking up iPhones, iPads, the things that they can do in grade 4 and grade 3, it's amazing.
Right.
So we're trying to push it down even further. The kids in high school, they know what they want, and those robotics programs have been exploding. So we're bringing them in-house, and they're very capable. We've got someone in today right now. It was a day off school, so one of our co-op students came in. He was eager to get in there. We had him right into some robotics, and
So it's interesting. So I had a tour of your facility about a year ago.
Sure.
And again, for the person sitting at home going, okay, robotics, it's up and down, move it around.
Right.
Like you're taking large scale robotics that you would find at what kind of factory?
And that's the interesting thing. We're taking robotics from all different industries. It's not just the traditional automotive that people have been used to, but it's food and beverage, it's aerospace, it's general industry. It's all these new applications that robotics are pushing into. Because of it's cheaper, it's easier to use, it's more reliable. So the return on investment is getting faster, and the deployment is getting easier and easier.
And what do you do though? Because you take apart these.
So we're a full service company. So we're doing the service, support, we're programming, we're shipping the parts all over the world, we're taking them apart. We have refurbishment programs for all these industrial robots. We're helping with the system integration side of it. So really we're covering, now we've grown. We started with just doing parts and service, and now we've sort of grown and expanded all of our service. We have repair labs, electronic labs. We've started developing new products of our own. We do a lot of distribution. So we brought on, recently we brought on that new robotics company with Hanwha. So that's been very big for us in the collaborative robots.
And before I go to Danielle and talk about your interest in robotics and where we are, what I enjoyed about the tour is seeing you as a young entrepreneur, seeing something early on in your career through engineering, and then creating a market for it.
Yes.
And really, where's what's the growth potential for your company?
It really, it's endless. It's whatever you want to put into it. I mean, the industrial robotics movement that's been happening over the last 30 years, it's been growing anywhere from between 20 to 40% a year, and it has it's only going to grow more. There's other segments like the collaborative robots, all these new technologies that are coming out, they're growing at 60% a year. So for kids that are moving into this field, I just keep pushing them because there is and with our company, I don't see any slowing down. It's just how quickly can you move, adapt while maintaining quality and taking care of your customers. But there's no limit really. Yeah.
And that's where Daniella comes into play, which is managing and helping to create the systems there. So what was your attraction to a company like FSD?
So as you mentioned, I was working at the research center at Niagara College. Doing productivity assessments, a big part of my role was going into different manufacturing facilities and trying to reduce waste and analyzing a certain cell, trying to make it more productive. And so a lot of what we did was provide automation solutions for those particular cells. So when I saw, how much money you can save a company and how you can help them, increase their outputs, to reduce the amount of investment and reduce the amount of waste, I was like, this is really cool. And being in the mechanical engineering program, I got to program one of the ABB robots to, pick and place application. This is so cool. And so, when I saw the posting for FSD, I'm like, this is great. Like, I'm going to apply this. This is like a really good opportunity for me.
So have you always been interested in the mechanical engineering side or is like, where did that fascination with the robotics side come to you?
So when I was in the mechanical engineering program, first of all, I never imagined myself being in mechanical engineering. I did it because both my father and my sister graduated from the program.
Okay.
And so I went in the program, and then I started seeing, how things work and, these robots and what they can do. And I was like, wow, this is really cool. This is sci-fi. This is awesome, right? And so, when I started working at the research center, being able to see the 3D printed additive manufacturing type of application, I'm like, wow, this is awesome. Started designing, things in Inventor, for example, and then 3D printing them, seeing your designs come to life, and I was like just fascinated with the technology and innovation. So I really wanted to go towards that, type of work.
Now you're involved in this acronym of OACETT and Women in Technology Initiatives. So what role in Niagara would you be playing to showcase or encouraging?
So they have, OSET is the Ontario Association of Mechanical Engineering Technicians and Technologists.
I couldn't guess
it's a mouthful. But we do a lot of initiatives for women in technology because we want to get more and more female representation in that industry.
Right.
Because as you mentioned, it is very male dominant, right? And so we do a lot of women in technology events where you just get together and even talk about your experience in the technology world with high school students, so that they're more encouraged to see that it's not just math, it's not just they think it's so boring. It's not. Get to work with these robots, and it's super exciting. And so we do a lot of events, like for example the month of March, it's the National Engineering Month. And so when I was in school, I did a lot of events to promote women in technology during that month. So
I think it's important because it's one of the things I've sort of witnessed going to the high schools is that there still is, it's dominated primarily by young men. So having someone on your team that can also go out to high schools and elementary schools and talk about getting women more involved in this sector, because you're right, it's going to be there's going to be jobs that are available, and we're not going to have the
and we're already seeing that, and that's been a problem to date.
So talk about that, because I think you'll have parents watching the show.
Sure, and I get parents approaching me all the time and saying, Dave, I see that there's so much opportunity. How do I get my kids involved? What's the best way to line them up, and what should they be taking in school? And it's constant. And the good news is, and what's so encouraging is that yes, the jobs are out there, and they're great jobs. I mean, so I think there has been a disconnect between our education system and where we've been streaming kids for certain types of jobs. The good news is there's a lot of great jobs out there in the technology field, not just in robotics. And robotics is one piece of the whole automation tree, I guess you could say. And there's parts all through there that have great different types of. So even if your kid's not good at doing one little particular part, there's so many other skills that are required. I mean, whether you're on the sales and application side, you're in the engineering side, you're on the support side, there's so many roles that need to be played in the whole automation game.
Well, and that's where Danielle was, when you talked about math, and math is boring, and we think of math as just being it's a 4-letter word, it's big, and we don't understand it, but there could be some kids who understand variances of math that are applicable to parts of.
And I think when they see, you're right, and I think when they see the application, when you make that connection, then it's like, oh, this is fun, and it's cool. Okay, I'll suffer through some of the physics and the math and some of these other areas that maybe I'm not strong in, and then I can get into this. Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
So 10 years. So we got about a minute left. Sure. What does the next 10 years look like for your business?
It's going to involve a lot of growth, and really I've invested heavily in the people, because I mean that's sort of what drives their company. So now we're looking forward to the next thing. The next step is getting a building. We're trying as hard as we can to find something in St. Catharines.
Oh, we're helping you.
I know.
We're going to keep you here.
We're looking at least almost triple the size of our building right now, and that's something immediate. We had an offer on a building, so we're working as quickly as we can to get the floor space, but investing in the people, taking on more people. We hired 4 people last month. We've got a lot more to hire on in this next segment, because there's going to be a lot of growth.
Well, I want to say thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedule for both of you coming here today.
Sure.
And it was an opportunity for us to shine a light on a company that is really poised for the future. When you talk about where technology is taking us, a lot of it is around robotics. And so we have a company 10 years in. Dave, you're a true entrepreneur. You saw an opportunity, you seized it, and you're building a great team. Daniella, thanks for coming on to the show and really giving a different perspective about robotics and how women getting involved is part of where the industry is going. So there's a lot going on in our community. We have success stories like FSD in our community, 47 years of Carousel Players, again, igniting the creative minds of young people in Niagara. This is what our community is all about. I want to say thank you for tuning in to Our Home with Mayor Sendzik, and remember, on Remembrance Day, take time to remember those who really gave of themselves so that we can enjoy the freedoms that we have here today. So until next time, take care.